All right, here we go. We've got a great lineup today of guest speakers. One of them's going to sing for us. No, I'm just kidding. Let me share my screen. Oh. All right. If you're not speaking, if you guys don't mind putting yourselves on mute, there's a little background noise, like a little fan. That would be great. All right. So happy Thursday, happy Friday Eve for the folks in North America. Happy early Thanksgiving. I'll be your host for today. I'm Karen Pendle. I'm joined by 3 assistants. They're slacking right now. I think they're sleeping somewhere in the other office. But I always host this meeting. I've been using Eloqua for 15 years. I'm Sojourn's Eloqua admin, and most of my job is actually helping people leverage Eloqua and other marketing automation platforms. But anyway, we're based in Tennessee. This picture is actually from last week. We went to the Adirondacks for a couple days, had to get away, and it was absolutely awesome. There was nobody in sight because it's really close to Canada and colder, and people tend to not be up there this time of year, which was awesome. So anyway, here's our agenda for today. We're going to do a quick poll. We typically always do the poll just to kind of get a feel for who's on the line and what issues you might be having or challenges, whatever you want to call it, with Eloqua. I'm going to do my typical quick reminders. I want to help you guys stay in the know on what's happening with Eloqua. So we'll go through those quickly. And then I'm going to pass it over to Maria Scholl from our team. She's one of our consultants that's been working on Eloqua and helping people leverage Eloqua for about a decade, I believe. And she's going to talk about email deliverability, give you guys some tips on how to establish it if you haven't, or more so, most of you probably already have done, say, IP warming, tips to help you have the best email deliverability that you can. And then we're going to pass it over to Erin from Oracle. She's going to go through another solution you could consider with Eloqua called DataFox. If you don't know about it already, she'll highlight the what it's about, the benefits of it, specifically with using it with Eloqua. It's a sales tool, but marketing can also benefit from it. So think of it like if you use Eloqua Profiler and Engage, this is a tool that's awesome for salespeople to leverage, kind of like a ZoomInfo, but she'll explain it's in certain ways better than that. But we want to help you guys understand how it'll benefit what you're doing in Eloqua, like with segmentation, etc. We'll have an open forum for whatever time we have left, but please feel free, as usual, to pop your questions in the Q&A. We'll do our best to get to them as much as possible. If your question doesn't get answered, please don't get upset. I'm going to email you guys later today with this recording, so you can always ask me then or remind me like, hey, KP, you said you were going to look into this. I want to make sure any questions you have, we get answered. If we end early, you can nap. That's cool. And then because we are recording this, we'll do our best not to swear. If you type in or get to speak, if you need to, want to, just let me know, especially in the Q&A, we can unmute your mic so that you can speak, but please don't swear. That's not poop. That's actually, I think, a man with a beard. Maybe it's Jesus. I'm not sure. I Googled it. So let's do the poll. Oh, whoa, got a little trigger happy there. Let's do the first question, which is, how long have you been an Eloqua user? The last few months, we've had mostly folks who have less than 3 years of experience joining this user group meeting. And before that, it was a lot of the veterans who have used Eloqua for more than 3 years. So it always kind of goes back and forth. Right now, we've got a lot of people 1 to 3 years. I'm going to share these results in just a second. Give it at least 30 seconds. And thank you, Jen. I love my assistants as well. She said very cute assistants, my doggies. All right, I'll stop the poll and share the results. So it looks like, once again, most of you guys are about 1 to 3 years of Eloqua experience under your belt. And then we've got quite a good number of people with less than a year. Welcome to Eloqua land. Such a good skill set to have in your career. Like, I started using Eloqua 15 years ago, and it really helped pave the way for my career. I mean, not just like, it's one piece of marketing, obviously, but anyway. And then there's 4 of you with about 7 to 9 years of experience. So those are the veterans out there. So thank you guys for joining. We've got 1 person with 10 plus years of experience, which is awesome. Hopefully we don't bore you. All right, so let me stop sharing that, and then we'll just do our other question. I always ask this question because it helps us come up with the topic for upcoming user group meetings. But also, I personally just like to understand, like, what's the latest, greatest area of Eloqua, or areas that people find the most challenging. And when the product team asked me about, like, hey, where do your clients struggle the most? I used your feedback to say, well, reporting still kind of sucks, or not quite sucks, but you get what I'm saying. That's where users have the greatest challenge. So here's the question: what areas challenge you the most with Eloqua? If you can pick one or two, that would be great. And we'll see what everybody thinks. And I should be careful. Reporting doesn't suck. Actually, Eloqua has one of the most powerful reporting engines of the most common marketing automation platforms: Marketo, Pardot, ExactTarget, or Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Acton. What is Watson now called? Acoustic. Most of them don't actually have a real business intelligence tool like Insight, which is an Oracle business intelligence tool behind it. So anyway, all right. So if the topic you have the challenge with is not listed, you can type it into the chat if you want. Just type in, like somebody typed in progressive profiling is one other thing people are challenged with, which I've heard before. Okay, I have had this poll going for about a minute. I'm going to stop it and share the results. So reporting and integrations are tied. Integrations weren't a big challenge in the past times we asked this poll, so that's a bit new. I'm going to guess it's with the Salesforce integration app. It's beautiful, but it's also a pain in the bum. It's got some things to it that are great wins, and then some parts where you're like, so anyway, reporting, that continues to be the theme. I think it's typically, from what I've seen from clients year over year, the number one thing people are challenged with. So I have heard rumors about Oracle using a different platform for reporting, but it's not on the product roadmap. So I don't think it's going to be anytime soon in the next year or two, but you never know. Sometimes things get juggled there and they switch around. But thank you guys for doing the poll questions. Appreciate you participating. Let me close that down. And with that, I'm going to stop my jabbering so much. Oh, wait, I've got one more thing I need to talk to you guys about. So relevant reminders. I'm going to keep doing this until it's done. So remember, Eloqua is migrating where Eloqua instances are stored on servers to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It already happened for pod 7. If you're on pod 6, it's coming up. If you don't know how to see what pod you're on, I'll just show you really quick. This is our Eloqua instance. I can see about 120 people registered for this. Anyway, you can always see it in the URL of, once you're logged into Eloqua, your pod number is right there. P is for pod, not something else. But anyway, so there it is. We're on pod 3, but if you're on pod 6, you're next in line on January 15th. You should have already received a communication from Oracle about it. If you have not, you're going to want to reach out to your Oracle rep. If you don't know who that is, let me know and I can help you figure out that person. But pod 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, you guys are coming up next year. So hopefully that move, the intent of it, I mean, there's an article that I've linked to here about it. Eloqua performance, stability will improve. It's already really good. I think it's like 98, 99% uptime, but we all know bugs happen, things happen. So hopefully this will help with those things as well. It's not going to cure everything. I mean, it's software. So anyway, next thing, the Eloqua product management team did a bunch of webinars this year. They've now made them all available on demand or as replays. So you can follow the second link there and check out those anytime. It's Eloqua product roadmap presentations, then presentations about Eloqua's releases, like the one that just came out this month. What is it called? 20D, as in like they do it by quarter, A, B, C, D, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 by the calendar. So the last one for this year just came out. And then I think the next one will be in February and they'll stagger it across the different pods. So not everybody gets the release at the same time. And then if there's a big bug, everybody's impacted. So if you ever wondered why they stagger it, that's why they do it. So if there is a bug, they can fix it. And typically the first pod or pods that get the new release have the fewest number of customers on it. So they'll be less impacted. Anyway, last thing here is our next Eloqua user group meeting. This meeting is December 17th. I realize it's super close to the holidays, but we're going to have a stripper, so I hope you come. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not sure the topics yet. I haven't figured them out. If you have any ideas, suggestions, recommendations, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm going to email you guys, so you can just reply to the email and say, hey, KP, I'd love to present on whatever. We'd love to see somebody do that. We did tips on reporting. Sojourn had a consultant do that 2 or 3 months ago. It was pretty basic tips on using Insight. If any users want to do a more in-depth, like advanced Insight reporting, it doesn't even have to be advanced. We'd love that. We'd love to have you guys participate and present more if we could. If not this year, next year would be awesome, but no pressure. All right, so with that, I would love to introduce you guys one of my favorite humans, Maria Shull. She is going to give you guys some tips on email deliverability, like I mentioned just a moment ago. So Maria, the floor is yours as soon as I stop sharing.
Thank you, Karen. Hold on one moment. I will share my screen. Are we good?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. So thank you everybody for joining our call today, our little group meeting here. I'm Maria Shull, and what I'm going to be talking about today is email deliverability. Hopefully bringing some awareness to the topic. If some of us have forgotten about it, some of us veterans and some of the newer clients out there, making sure that it is something that you discuss internally. So I'm going to share some tips and best practices. So when we talk about email deliverability, what do we really mean? In short, it means getting your emails into your customer's inbox. It means keeping your emails out of spam and junk folders. And now it also means creating and maintaining a good sending reputation. So every sender of email communications has a reputation that's built on historical email behavior. So it's similar to your credit score. Reputation is measured and published by ISPs in the form of sender score. So if you do know what your IP address is, you can go to senderscore.org, plug in your IP, and check out what your rating is right now. What I also want to add here is to really be sure that your Eloqua branding is in place. So if you do have that that package with Oracle, you really want to make sure your DNS configuration is set up, because if it's not, the bounce backs won't be tracked and suppressed correctly in Eloqua when you're suppressing them at the segment. Your SPF record, if that isn't set up, some recipients can reject the email because the IP is listed on the SPF record doesn't match the IP that the email was sent from. So that's important. And then your A record configuration as well. So what Eloqua does, it creates a matching reverse DNS record, and some servers will go and do that reverse lookup to get the IP name. And if there's data that's missing or if it doesn't align, that message could be rejected as well. So those are very important settings to have correctly. So just as there's factors that can harm our credit score, like opening too many lines of credit cards, or not paying your bill on time, there's also some factors that can harm your sender reputation. The most important factor is that human response to unwanted mail. And you get the mail in your inbox and you mark it as spam. Maybe you're tired of hearing from the people or what have you. So you really want to be sure that your audience is engaged with your content. Another thing that can harm it is a high bounce back rate. So the rates can be a sign of bad lists or list management practices. So really email validation services can help with this. If you're using third-party lists and you're loading them into your database, it's a good idea to have that validation service in place. And then also hitting spam traps. So spam traps are typically used by inbox providers to catch malicious senders But sometimes legitimate senders like us that could have poor data hygiene can end up on their radar. So how can we as marketers combat this? I think one solution can be to utilize a double opt-in process on your forms, which would, validate the email and make sure that it's really a legitimate email address. So we've talked about sender score and reputation, but what about bounce backs? What's normal and when should you be concerned? So the rates I have here are really a best practice from Oracle as well. You really want to take a look and make sure that your hard bounce rate is 2% or less, your overall bounce rate is 5% or less, and your spam complaints are 0.2% or less. What I've included in here is some information that's directly in Eloqua that you all should have access to. These are just some definitions, how they define a hard bounce. It's an email that permanently cannot be delivered, where it be the domain is invalid or the email address is just bad. An SMTP code is often returned within the 500 range. So you can see that on the report. And then a soft bounce is defined as an email that temporarily could not be delivered. So it could be a valid email address, but the mailbox is full, or the server is unavailable, or sometimes maybe the email message is too large. And these will be returned with an SMTP code that's within the 400 range. And then Eloqua will attempt to resend the messages for about 48 hours, unless that mailbox is full. So these are some very great, useful reports in the Insight reporting tool. These are something that you should be monitoring as well on a regular basis. Your campaign operational reports will provide you with just a quick view of the email performance right in the campaign on the canvas. Your bounce back history with messaging. This reports bounces by email address and will show you the SMTP error code and the return message if the recipient has returned one. The email bounce back overview shows like a total of your hard bounces, your soft bounces by the email asset within a specific date range that you specify. The spam unsubscribe report can give you insights into the spam complaints. The campaign analysis overview is really an overall view across multiple campaigns, and you can filter on that as well. And then the email analysis overview, again, is an overall view of the bounce rates across multiple email assets that also you can filter on. So these are really great to help you monitor your deliverability. So next we'll just talk about some best practices and processes that we really recommend from our perspective and our experience. This is the report that has the SMTP error code and the description for the message that is returned. This is your bounce back with messaging report. And it's a best practice to review this on a regular basis, initially maybe weekly, then you can go to monthly and ultimately quarterly is really, I think, the goal so that you are really addressing everything when they first happen. You clean up your data and everything, is running as status quo. It's the best practice to exclude hard bounces and unsubscribes from your segments before adding them to your campaign canvas. And you can do this by filtering using an exclude filter on your segments. It's also best practice now to pause your soft bounces for 30 days, or, it may be 2 weeks just to make sure that, your soft bounces are also not increasing that overall bounce rate. So it's a good idea to do this and see if that helps with your deliverability as well. If you're using list uploads, so when you're uploading your lists into Eloqua, it's really a great idea to tag that record with the list source, the date of that data coming into your system. What I feel is good fields that you can use here is an original list upload, the date, the name, and then most recent. That way you always know the most recent record and where it came from. You know, this way, if there's a problem with the record, if something bounces, you can easily identify the vendor where you purchased that record from. Deleting contacts. So it's also a good idea to maintain your database by deleting those unreachable audiences, the hard bounces, the global unsubscribes. And when you do delete these records out of Eloqua, Eloqua will retain the information. So they'll retain that global subscription status. They'll retain that email bounce back status if that record were to come back into Eloqua from some other way.
And just to point out for GDPR concerns or California data, all that stuff, Eloqua doesn't keep any other information other than what Maria just mentioned tied to that original email address. So there's not a issue as far as like compliance is concerned. When you delete them from Eloqua, all their data, like in the contact fields and activities, goes away, except for those two types of activities, if they ever hard or soft bounced and if they ever globally unsubscribe. So just keep that in mind, because that's one thing we get asked by people is, wait a minute, if I delete them, but they stay in those Eloqua hard bounce and global unsubscribe databases, is that compliant? And the answer is yes. There's no other details provided about that record.
Great point, Karen. Thanks.
Yep.
So monitoring the deliverability and to really create a schedule for that deliverability reporting, really assign an owner to this task internally. Report on those reports either weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever suits your business needs and your email deployments, to really keep everybody abreast of what the rates are overall within your platform. So you should also be monitoring your sender score after deployments, just as a measure, to make sure that that's all in check and not dipping down for any reason. You can check also on their platform on senderscore.org to see if there's any blacklists that you were added to. You want to be aware of your email sending practices and throttle your emails. If you typically send out 100,000 emails per blast, and the next one you're going to be sending is 250,000, it would be a good idea to throttle that email just to avoid those large spikes in volumes, because that can sometimes affect your sender score. And again, ensure that your sending domains are configured properly. This is just really very, very important. Your DNS, your SPF, DKIM, DMARC as well. If you don't have a DMARC record, I would suggest that you create one of those as well. That's just something that you would do on the IT side in your area. Eloqua doesn't have any input on that or setup that they need to do. Another useful tool is Google Postmaster Tools. You can visit this site here to check that out if you're interested in creating those records as well. And so again, if you're uploading third-party lists, it is a best practice to use an email address verification service so that you can flag those records also that are no longer valid. We mentioned that previously. And then another point is, if you do have in-house sales reps that are during their qualification process, maybe they can ask to validate the email address that they're to the client that they're speaking with at the time. That helps sometimes with spelling errors and whatnot. So that is it. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to send this back to Karen.
Cool. Thank you, Maria. There's some questions and I've answered them in the chat. Somebody did ask about the process of automatically deleting hard bounces specifically, not just contacts, but We'll answer that over the Q&A. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A versus the chat. It keeps a better organization of it. But anyway, so next up, I'd love to introduce you guys to my dogs again, and also Erin Turner. So again, Erin's one of the ASMs at Oracle. The focus is on DataFox. She's going to walk us through what I mentioned earlier, an overview of DataFox, and also touch on how it integrates with Eloqua, which is probably one of the main things you guys are here to learn about. So with that, Erin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, KP, and thanks everybody for joining today. Greatly appreciated. And I'm just gonna pop up my deck here. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, DataFox was an acquisition by Oracle about 1.5 years ago. And in the process of acquiring it, the organization that actually was acquired was using their own tool and was using it in a marketing capacity. So the integration with Eloqua and the benefits that it brings to the table were a pretty natural fit. And one of the things that we talk, or several of the things that we talk to marketers about on a regular basis, is using data to enhance what it is you're already bringing to the table, whether that be creating a compelling account-based marketing experience, aligning with your sales team, finding new prospects to expand your target market. Those are all things that marketers are constantly trying to accomplish, not only with Eloqua itself, but with a lot of the other marketing tools that are also available. And one of the things that we've found is that most B2B marketing strategists and marketers say that they are only as good as the quality of their data. As we know, account-based marketing, as opposed to individual marketing, is essentially targeting businesses and a corporation at large, as opposed to just an individual. And that varies a little bit differently from the traditional sales and marketing funnel, in that you are essentially starting at the base of the funnel in a completely different manner. So what is DataFox and why is it beneficial to Eloqua users? DataFox is an account intelligence platform. Again, we go back to the concept of data is integral to being able to accomplish what your goals are with a particular campaign or campaigns. And what DataFox does is we use a variety of artificial intelligence techniques in order to aggregate company level data for you and provide account intelligence on those organizations. So why is the Eloqua better with DataFox? Because of that integration and the data enhancement in the specific arenas that we enhance, you're going to have the ability to do advanced targeting and segmentation, adaptive campaign management according to changes in organizations like mergers and acquisitions, changes to executive management, maybe potentially some negative news if the organization might be struggling financially, as we are unfortunately seeing very often these days, giving you better and more accurate lead management and scoring, flexible data management, and of course that all elusive sales and marketing alignment. So where exactly does Eloqua fit into, or I'm sorry, does DataFox fit into Eloqua? Obviously at the technology level, Eloqua is our base product, but it's solving for a number of different challenges. So if we're talking about where DataFox fits in your campaigns, your sales and marketing alignment, and obviously your governance and compliance, these are the arenas where that integration is going to assist you. If we talk a little bit about what the specific data points are that DataFox is going to be able to enhance, when we talk about some of these other pieces of information besides just that basic information that we see most individuals fill out on a form fill, they're only going to fill out some very, very high level information. They might give you their name, It might give you their email address, and you're of course hoping that that is not necessarily a random Gmail address, but it also includes the domain of their organization and potentially high level for their location. And then of course from there, you're going to try and personalize the specific campaign that you might be running. But that makes it very difficult to personalize communications because you have such little contextual data. Because we're enhancing specific data points, one of the things that DataFox is going to help you do from that standpoint is prioritization. We'd love to focus on everyone at once, but that really isn't feasible. So we want to identify specific data attributes that let us launch campaigns centered around accounts that have the highest revenue potential. And that could be based on different types of attributes about an organization, whether it be the technology that they might be using in their back or front office, their physical location, their size based on headcount or revenue, what type of vertical they might be in. And then from there, what are those attributes that are most important to us, both as sales and marketing? We begin to create essentially a definition of what it is to establish the right account data types that we are looking for to ensure that we're working on the same types of targets. From there, we know we have a set list in our database of organizations that we might be trying to do business with, but what if there are other organizations out there that also fit our target criteria that might not necessarily be in our system? We want to be able to expand that total addressable market so that we are ensuring that we are targeting absolutely everyone who might be a good prospect for us. So essentially what Oracle DataFox does is it is a data aggregation engine. We use artificial intelligence through machine learning and natural language processing to aggregate both firmographic and signal data for you that are all actionable data points. As we all know, in today's day and age, data is being aggregated at a very, very high rate and is getting more and more difficult a lot of times to stay on top of, particularly with the specific data points that you as a marketer might be looking for. What we do is pull all of that data into a single platform, which then can be integrated into Eloqua to give you the ability to make better decisions on your campaigns. What it does is it extends and enhances Eloqua's capability to do, again, that segmentation, adaptive campaign management, better and more accurate lead and account scoring, which you may already be doing in Eloqua, but this gives you the ability to enhance that even further. Robust data enrichment and management, and again, that sales and marketing alignment. So where exactly is the data enrichment going to happen? Well, Benjamin Vargas gave us some information, but all he did was give us his name and his email address, ben@Nike. The thing is, what I want to understand as a marketer, and if running an account-based marketing strategy, is Nike as an organization one of our target companies that we want to be directing a lot of communication to, or continuing to facilitate any new products or services that we might be offering that they don't yet already use. So the information that essentially is going to be enhanced is that firmographic level data. Does Ben belong to an organization? What is that organization? Does that company rank highly on a target account list that we have created based on specific attributes about that organization? And then according to that account score, location, revenue, and popularity or focus on that particular account, how important is it for us to get back to Ben, in what kind of time frame, and what is that specific messaging? So what we're going to do is bring you attributes about certain things that are most important to you as an organization. And each one of these scoring criteria or data points has the ability to be custom built out according to what is most important to you as an organization. And weights can all be assigned based on the importance of that data point, both positive and negative weighting. And what this gives you the ability to do is essentially feed that information into your own lead score in order to better be able to understand how important that particular lead might be. And of course, we want to be able to collaborate with sales as much as we possibly can, because everybody is being measured, in order to figure out how are we going to determine better who fits into which profile and engagement score, in order to combine sales and marketing activity to generate a unified understanding, and as well improve our go-to-market and our return on investment on the tools we're also using. So we want to try and essentially take that DataFox information and be able to do a better job and get a better understanding of exactly where on the A to D profile scale and the 1 to 4 engagement scale each one of these organizations fits, as opposed to just that individual contact or lead. We've seen the results with a lot of different customers on how this benefits them. And as you can see, there's all kinds of benefits involved with using DataFox. It can be everything on less time spent on data wrangling, to new and increased targets, increased meetings for the sales folks, and increased deal size. These are some of the customers that we're already currently working with who are doing a great job of utilizing this and seeing a lot of benefit in the account-based marketing strategy. And at this point, I'd welcome any questions that we might have in order to get you guys a better understanding of exactly what DataFox can bring to the table for you.
All right, cool. Thank you, Erin. And guys, feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A. I'm going to share my screen quick and do a quick look inside Eloqua at what this looks like when you integrate the DataFox data, just those 12 fields specifically that pass over here. So I'm on a segment right now. I'm going to use a filter to add in the fields and just basically to show you guys. When you do the integration between Eloqua and DataFox, there's the 12 fields that pass from DataFox every day into Eloqua for segmentation, maybe personalization. Scoring is a common use case for it. So here's how it works. You can see these fields here. We could do, if you have scoring and tiers set up in DataFox, that's what drives those, not Eloqua. So some people are actually using DataFox to do account scoring. As many of us know, Eloqua can do it, but it has some limitations. And what's cool about DataFox is those signals like company news that's relevant, whether it's positive or negative, we can use that to add to the scoring algorithm in DataFox, but not in Eloqua. So the signals don't pass to Eloqua like the company news is what I'm talking about. So anyway, you could use scores. Well, if they have a score of 1, maybe we want to exclude them. So anyway, I just wanted to point this out because to me, I'm like, this stuff makes sense, but let me see it in Eloqua. So that gives you a little bit of an example of what it would look like. And I will tell you guys, so we use DataFox in our Eloqua instance, our Salesforce CRM instance. If you wanted to use it in your CRM of choice, or I'll pull up my, well, I'm a lead a couple of times in our Salesforce. That's probably not right. Anyway, there's my old address. You guys can send me nothing there. But when you add it to here, it's not going to be where Profiler and Engage are. It's not meant to replace them. But what happens is it gets added to the, where it makes sense to, account object. So just want to show that. Let me pull up ETCC, and you can see DataFox data right here, DataFox. And then the actual, it's very similar. If you have Eloqua Profiler, it's a Visualforce page that you implement in your CRM. That's kind of Salesforce terminology, but an iframe, something like that. There's different ways to do it. You don't have to have it in your CRM, but I just wanted to kind of show that this is one of the ways that we see people use it. And one of the things that I love about it is when your sales team adds an account to Salesforce, or if they have existing accounts, they can sync them with DataFox, and DataFox will update fields in Salesforce that your Salesforce admin has mapped between DataFox data and Salesforce account fields. So you can pick and choose. You don't have to have DataFox overwrite industry, for example, if you don't want it to, but There's the signals like about this company, any news they've published in their press releases. That's one of the sources. But anyway, to me, this is pretty dang cool that it's all there. And then the other thing I just wanted to show is DataFox standalone is a little bit prettier. I mean, it's not embedded on a CRM page like I just showed you, and becomes, as you'll see, a very easy tool for sales to use. Or I find that we see some marketers using it because when we're doing research on target accounts, like for ABM efforts, or like in the B2C world, sometimes we're doing it for sponsorships, donations, and we're going after organizations. It's not always exactly B2B, B2C specific, one or the other, I should say. Well, let's see if I can get this to load. That'd be neat. If not, we'll not do it. But let me just stop for a second. Somebody just asked while I'm waiting for this to load, I'm not sure what's happening. How is DataFox different from BlueKai? So BlueKai is definitely, it's a lot different. So think of DataFox as really like what Erin just shared. This is going to help you on a lot of different levels from the marketing standpoint with segmentation, personalization, scoring, account level information, especially if you have target accounts, which almost every organization does now, or at least tiers them. Like, these are our targets. These are the nice to haves. These are the companies maybe that we want to avoid, maybe. But BlueKai is getting third-party data. It's a DMP, so it's a very different intent. It's not account level information at all. It's at the individual level. So that's, you know, if you think of BlueKai, it's Oracle Marketing Clouds, or CX Marketing is the new term for that. They're DMP, and it's a very different intent. The cost also, DataFox versus DMP or BlueKai, way different. Most of the time, BlueKai is at least 6 figures, maybe 7 figures, depending on how much you want to do with it. It's an expensive tool, but it's very powerful, versus DataFox is significantly less than that. I don't have, you know, we don't want to throw out quotes, but that said, I think my internet just is a bust. But anyway, if you want to get pricing on any of this stuff, of course, your Oracle rep is the way to go. This isn't meant to be a sales session, guys. But the reason why we're talking about DataFox, last month we talked about Infinity, another tool in the CX marketing or Oracle Marketing Cloud, is in a past user group. That was one of the requests from the users, is keep educating us on the other solutions that Oracle has for marketing, and in this case also for sales, that can help us. Doesn't mean you want to buy it, doesn't mean you even need to, but at least educate you about it, because it may make sense for you to evaluate it and maybe to buy it. Of course, you know, there's competing vendors out there of big sizes like Adobe and Salesforce, and the more small niche companies that sell things like DataFox and DMP and Eloqua. So there's a lot to consider, but there's the benefit of DataFox already integrates with Eloqua out of the box. And it took me like less than an hour to do both installing it in our CRM and integrating it with Eloqua. It's super quick and easy. So anyway, any other questions you guys want to pop in the Q&A, feel free to do so now. And if not, let me.
KP, there was one other question that was also posted, and the question was whether or not DataFox has its own UI, or is it purely a service? And I think we probably can tell just because KP just brought up the UI. There is a web interface if you want to consume the data from that perspective. If you could just click on companies there, KP.
Yep.
Perfect. If you look on the right-hand side, at this point in time, we have 6.8 million companies in the database, and that does include international data and does give you the ability to consume any of this data or filter it, segment it, score it within the actual UI.
It's cool. I'll show you guys a little bit around in here. So this is just looking individually at an account. So we use this for our own marketing purposes, like and sales. It's twofold, right? Like, it's helpful to see the signals, especially with companies, which you can hone in. You don't have to see all the signals. You can see ones about growth or financial, maybe not the ones about people. So you can really drill in. To me, when an organization is laying people off, it may not be the best time to, ask them for more money if you're already working with them, or be more empathetic about how you do so. So that can relate in your communications and how you would write them in an automated fashion out of Eloqua, say to clients that are up for renewal. So anyway, there's interesting ways that people are using these signals. Some want to get them out of DataFox and into CRM for sales to follow up on. It's a custom solution to do that, but it's possible, and vice versa, like take them over to Eloqua to do, like I just kind of gave you the use case of personalizing communications based on. So this may not be like number one on your list of things to do now or for next year, but it's something that's getting towards like ABM efforts. But aside from that, just really being empathetic in your messaging. And when you can see and hear that a company is struggling, we can message in a way that we, you don't have to explicitly acknowledge that, but in some way or another, your communication does account for that. So anyway, there's, we could talk here for like 2 hours on empathetic marketing, but obviously with the pandemic and a lot of different repercussions of the pandemic, it's more important than ever. It's always been important. It's funny, I see people promote webinars where it's like, now we need to be empathetic with our marketing. It's like, well, you probably should have always been, but maybe have a closer eye on it now in your communications and on the sales side, on conversations directly with people. So that to me is a part of what I saw the value in DataFox. And these are things that are not, some other similar tools to DataFox might have them, but not in the easy format to review, with your eye, but also to get out of here. You can use the API to extract these out, the ones that you want, and use them elsewhere, whether it's your CRM, in a SQL database, and your marketing automation platform, etc. And then I'll just touch quickly on the account scoring. So, dang Comcast. Anybody here from Comcast? Sorry, but my internet's slow, and well, that's who I use. Anyway, I guess I won't keep going because I don't want to keep having to delay you guys with waiting for my screen. So anyway, any other questions or tips anybody wants to share? If you want to speak, I can unmute your mic, so feel free to just let me know. I'll give it a minute. If not, please wear your mask like this. They don't have the little picture where people wear it under their nose. I almost put the picture on here where it's inappropriate, but it shows if a guy wore his mask below a certain body part. That's what it reminds me of when people wear it below their nose. It's like, come on, get it together, people. Wear your mask right. And just wear a mask too. That'd be helpful. I don't see any questions coming in. Just waiting one more minute. All right, I think we are good then. So thank you guys all very much for attending. I always appreciate it. We've got about, I think, 50 people that were here. Everybody's starting to drop at this point, so I'll take the hint. The next user group meeting, as I mentioned earlier, December 17th. It's a Thursday, always the third Thursday of the month at 11 Eastern, same time, same place. So again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any suggestions for how we could do this user group meeting better or different. And if you would like to present next month or anytime next year, just let me know. There's no pressure to have to do it in December. Thank you all. Again, if you're in the States, have a nice Thanksgiving, and everybody else have a great rest of your day and weekend. Bye, everyone. And thank you, Maria. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks, Karen. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, KB.
Bye.